Podcasting from the beautiful state of Maine, welcome to another episode of the Learning from Leaders podcast, the show that focuses on identifying and developing the skills and behaviors that will inspire, empower, and compel others to follow your lead. Listen as Patrick's guests talk about the powerful leadership approaches they have identified and developed, which are vital for leading in today's challenging times. These are the same approaches that will positively impact you as a leader too. Learning from Leaders provides the right balance of leadership research with real-world scenarios, making it easy for you to rise above your best. All right, let's start the show.
Hi, everybody. Again, I'm Patrick Veroneau, and thank you for joining me on another episode of Learning from Leaders. On today's episode, we're going to talk about health and our immune system, and we're even going to get down to the cell level. And my guest, her name is Dr. Sveta Silverman, and some of her bio is that she's a conventional doctor with a passion for education of disease prevention and health promotion. She's associate professor, Department of Pathology and Lab Medicine at University of Alberta. She is a surgical pathologist and her expertise is in breast pathology. And what I love about one of the bios that I had read, it stated she's on a mission to help others improve their health. And certainly that's how we were connected. And that while she is a surgical pathologist by degree, she is a teacher by calling. And I would agree with that 100%. Again, I loved her enthusiasm and her passion for this topic. So let's get into it. Sveta, I want to thank you for taking the time to be on the podcast. We had the opportunity to speak a few weeks ago, and our conversation specifically went around resilience and health of individuals and how that plays into resilience. And I thought it's such an important time for us to talk about that. And I know that one of the things that I've been experiencing is, to me, the difference between coping and resilience. And as I've seen it, this is the best I can come up with when I think about that transition is when I think of coping. If I'm on a boat that's leaking, I can bail it out, and that's coping. But eventually, either I'm overcome by water or I'm too tired to bail anymore, and the boat sinks. Whereas to me, resilience is that opportunity to fix the outside of the boat so that the water is all around me, but it doesn't get inside. And I think a lot of people have been able to cope up until now, but have lacked the ability to build resilience where now it needs to take over. I can't bail a boat anymore. This is too much. I'd love your perspective on things, especially as it relates to health and the cellular level of individuals, because I think that's a piece that we're missing right now.
Well, first of all, Patrick, thank you so very much for giving me the opportunity to teach health. And I'm so blessed to get to know you. And I think we're connecting on so many levels in terms of health and energy and positivity. So blessed. Thank you.
I would agree. Thank you.
It's interesting, I am per se the doctor of cells. By degree, I diagnose cancers. Again, I look in the microscope and diagnose cells and cells and cells. So by the virtue of my mission, I teach health. And everything is connected to, you say, coping and resilience. So let's talk a little bit from a perspective of cells. As you said, you can patch the boat, it's coping. And per se, that's what we do. We patch ourselves. Okay, I have a headache, I will take a pill. Oh, I have a heartburn, I will take a pill. And that's coping. And at a certain degree, you get, I cannot take care of this headache anymore. However, resilience is, how do I get to the root cause of this? And how do I fix it? To begin with, our cells are incredibly resilient and they're incredibly forgiving because there is an ingenious mechanism of cellular defense or cellular cleanliness. There are cellular vacuum cleaners in every cell. But however, they are coping. Initially, they're very resilient because those vacuum cleaners, the cellular cleansers, they're cleaning the cell from all the garbage that we're getting from the environment, from electromagnetic fields, from the stress that we're putting on us, from everything that is around us, from the food that we eat, and not paying attention to what we eat. So those vacuum cleaners are initially, they're so strong, they are Dysons. And then they're coping. They started to cope. It's like, okay, a little patch, and then the cell gives up. I cannot clean myself anymore. I'm done coping. I'm exhausted. I'm so tired. I'm exhausted. I'm done. Then the cellular machinery switches and goes haywire and start making atypical or malignant cells. And it's like now, this day and age, in this situation, we're coping till okay, I'm done. Now, the thing is, how do I get strong? How do I get healthy? And then how do I get, with this said, how do I get resilient? But that is the resilience of positivity. Because to me, healthy equals happy, equals positive. So how do I per se do, and how do I address cellular resiliency? Because again, switching back, who are we? Who are we as a body, as a human being? We are a lump of cells. Some say 30 trillion, some say 35 trillion, some say 50 trillion. Okay, let's say the average, 35 to 37 trillion cells. So I have to be resilient with resiliency of every cell. I need to build every cell as my fortress of health. And that is my responsibility. And this is per se my resiliency to outside world and my resiliency to stand up and say, I am making the best of me. I am. My responsibility to stay resilient is not the responsibility of my doctor or even my pastor or my rabbi. They are my leaders, spiritual leaders, consultants, my guiding apparatus, my support, emotional, physical, but my resiliency is entirely upon my responsibility to be the best I am. My responsibility to be the best I am is my responsibility to make 35 or 37 trillion cells the best they are. How do I do this? Lots of simple things that do not require any money, but require the resiliency of commitment. I am committing to myself. I am committing to my health.
Sveta, let's face it, that is, I think, one of the challenges for a lot of people is that how do you create the habits, right? That you build these habits. I think we have become a society at times where if it doesn't work the first time, we move on. We don't stick with things. And I totally hear you, right? You're talking about developing on really so many different levels, whether it's physically, what do we put in ourselves? Intellectually, what do we put in ourselves in terms of our thoughts? Emotionally and spiritually as well, I would agree with you in terms of what do we consume that helps build those 35, however many cells it is, trillion.
Right. And the thing is, you just nailed it. Again, every commitment, when do we start commitments? On the 1st of January. 1st of January, we have the New Year's resolutions. So 1st of January, it's a holiday. Let's say 2nd of January, 3rd of January, you hit the gym. If the gyms are going to be open, fine, you hit the gym. And the gyms are full of people because everybody makes a resolution. Now, how many of them make it as a commitment?
Yeah.
You can probably count them.
Yeah. I think I've heard it's the 15th or something like that most people.
There you go.
In the resolutions.
And then the commitment relies on consistency. Consistency is going to turn into habit. Because when you do every day, per se, the similar thing, well, guess what? One day you wake up and say, I'm going to skip it. It doesn't feel right. Yeah. And when it doesn't feel right, it's your habit.
Right.
Now, the consistency, interesting, when you start committing to the good foods, inadvertently, you become consistent and habitual. And what happened is your body is going to clock, or your body is going to moderate, not modify, moderate your consistency. My example, I am committed to drink healthy water. I do not drink tap water, period. I don't drink tap water, and I do it day after day after day after day.
And why?
Hang on. Then the travel happens, for example, which doesn't happen anymore. The travel happens. So I go somewhere, I go to the restaurant or something, and they serve me tea. Well, guess what? I can't drink that tea because my body tells me, what kind of garbage you're putting in it? It tastes yucky. It just tastes yucky. So that my commitment and my consistency to pour healthy water and make my own beverages leads to the habit. And that habit, when I break it, my body tells me, mm-mm. And the same habit you build with good foods. So for example, now let's say Joe Doe. So Joe Doe is on SAD diet. And the SAD stands for Standard American Diet. Is it sad? It's very sad. But that's the acronym. So Joe Doe is eating SAD diet, meaning that there's plenty of carbohydrates, processed carbohydrates, and that is Joe's habit. So Joe harming his cells and breaking the cellular health, putting refined processed carbohydrates, which are very fastly convert into sugar. That triggers the reactions. When we have sugar in our bloodstream, it stimulates, everybody knows the hormone of insulin. Insulin grows abnormal cells, but what insulin does, it shoves the glucose into the cells of something. So, but the problem is when there is too much of a glucose, it doesn't go into the cells because the cells are saturated. But insulin keeps coming and keeps sending the signals to the brain, give me more, give me more, give me more. And this is the habit of people who eat refined foods, eat it more often because they're not making it up, because they feel hungry. They're extremely saturated. Their satiety per se, their cells are screaming of overabuse of carbohydrates, but their brain is also screaming, give me more, give me more, give me more, because I'm starved.
Pizza.
There you go. So this is your habit, living in Maine, by the ocean, awesome stuff. He eats pizza. The guy with the French name eats pizza.
And Sveta, I'm telling you, I can't stop.
Yeah, you can. That's the thing.
Well, yeah.
So this is your resilience to you. So what you do is you create a pattern. It's like, oh, pizza. Oh, I know. I do know. Okay, what do I substitute with pizza? And then you can make a commitment. You can eat healthy pizza, and I will teach you healthy pizzas. But you can let me try. This is my resilience. This is my pizza. This is my salad. Whatever on top of pizza, let's say basil, arugula, even some cheese, for example, I put it in a salad bowl minus crust. That's what I'm eating today. I'm eating deconstructed minus crust pizza. And I'm committing myself to 7 days of deconstructed minus crust pizza. Now, in 7 days, all of a sudden, your cells are like, hello, I'm happy. Woo, what happened? And I'm feeling vibrant. And I've got more energy. My wife noticed me. It's like I'm like a young chick again. My kids are asking me, Dad, what happened to you? Why you are so active? And I feel great. I feel young and I feel positive. A week, why do I go back to something that is going to make me feel lousy other than satisfying my brain for 3 minutes?
Right.
And that's how you start creating and building the pattern. So you go 7 days, analyze, is it working? This is just one way. And the same thing with exercise. You start walking every day. You just start walking 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, but you keep doing it regularly. You're just creating a pattern. And then one day you catch yourself, I haven't done my walking. Something is not right in my routine. So your consistency, your routine, your habit.
It's funny, I just did a workshop on this the other day in regards to some work that was done by Anders Ericsson around 10,000 hours and deliberate practice. And again, I'm all for what you're talking about. And I exercise it myself, no pun intended, but when I work out in the morning, I know that when I don't work out, I don't feel as good.
And amen, that's it. But the same applies to food.
Yeah.
And the same applies to meditation. The same applies to prayer in some instances. And the same applies to whatever you do to bring, because our health doesn't necessarily reside on good food only, supplements only, or exercise only. Number one, what's a problem with the society now? We are angry. We are so stressed. We are so confused. We are angry. We're not happy. We're not emotionally stable now. And that is number one of unhealth. So, because again, cells with the thing, it's a computer, programming device, but you program it. And you can program it positively, and you can program it negatively. And when you program it positively, even if you start initially faking it, you just start working on it. Your computer doesn't know. It's a positive input. It's going to be a positive input. Yeah. But when you do it consistently and stuff like that, the positivity of mind creates a positivity of health and healthy cells. I think mental, emotional, spiritual comes number one.
Yes, Sveta, you mentioned such an important part too, and how our mental state impacts our immune system too. And we had a conversation just quickly last time around Bruce Lipton, and I told you I had read The Biology of Belief with him. And, one of the things that stood out to me, and I'd love your thoughts on this, is he said, when we're stressed, that basically it's like fight, flight, or freeze for our system, so that we take away from our immune system, because the body thousands of years ago, if it was a saber-toothed tiger coming toward me, it said, we're going to take all the blood and put it in your extremities and areas that you can get out of this situation. And if you survive this, then we'll come back and we'll continue working on the bacterial infection you have. But we're not going to do it until then. So we're always stressed.
You're entirely correct. The funny, the coincidence is a friend of mine who is a psychologist. She brought a concept, and I lit up. She said she's learning and teaching and studying and presenting psychology of immune system. Have you heard of that? Psychology of immune system. Now, the interest, again, it's, as you said, it's stress. It's all stress. You said, hundreds of years ago, saber-toothed tiger runs after you. What do? It's a flight or fight response. Of course, your blood, your cortisol goes up. Your cortisol or your stress hormone goes extremely high, and the blood rushes to the extremities, and you're fine. Problem is, it was a solitary event.
Yeah, that's exactly
what happens right now. We have saber-toothed tigers running after us. We allow them to run after us imaginatory, 24/7. Like not even 16, because we're not sleeping right. It's almost like 24/7. What does it do? For example, like we were talking about the blood recirculation, but what happens is we exhaust our stress hormones, which are connected to every other hormone, which is connected to every system, including immune system. If your stress hormones like cortisol is not at the right state, which is entirely affected by stress, you are inadvertently depressing, downregulating your immune system. There is no ways around it.
Which is so amazing, right? When we think about, especially right in this era of the pandemic and this virus, and people getting so worked up and stressed out about it, their stress and their worry is counterproductive, that it's actually
entirely. In this day and age of pandemic, this is our wake-up call to get healthy. That's it.
Totally agree. And again, I think
it's not about social distancing. It is about social distancing. That's fine. But it doesn't matter whether you social distance or not. If you're not healthy, you're at risk. You are at risk. And who are at the utmost risks are elderly, obese, and people with chronicities, like diabetes, like cardiovascular disease. And the thing is, when you have a diabetes, every system of your body is affected. And it's a gut, and it's your microgut, and it's your immune system. So I take pandemic with a stride. I love washing hands. Not obsessively. No, I don't have obsessive compulsive thing on the washing hands. I've got it on other things. But I just love washing hands with a soap because it gives me hand massage. It just gives me kind of a soothing. When I finally stop for 20 seconds, I'm actually connecting with myself. So, but the thing to me, the pandemic is, how do I optimize my lifestyle now to health? How do I optimize my diet to health? How do I optimize my hydration, my supplementation, my cellular upregulation? And everything in that pattern leads to cellular health. Well, guess what immune system is? Immune system is immune cells. Everything is extremely simple.
We're right back to where we started.
Everything, exactly. But everything, it's extremely simple. But everything resides on my resilience, my commitment to health.
Once again, we're back to it starts with us, right? It's less worry, more work on ourselves, on getting better.
It's entirely my responsibility. Listen, do I want to get up at 5:15 to have yoga at 6? Not exactly. Do I push myself out of bed? Absolutely. Because being type A personality, spending an hour of hot yoga in the morning gives me an hour of me. Whether I like it or not, I am in the closed room for an hour. So I am doing walking or moving meditation. I love hot because what it does, it's my, again, inadvertent apparatus of cleansing. Sweating means detoxification. Whether I like it or not, it's detoxification. And I love it.
Yeah. Sweta, you know what I find interesting is that, and I always thought, I felt kind of guilty that I hate running. I run regularly. There's not a time that I think I have left to go out for a run that I'm like, this is awesome. I love this. But within an hour of getting back, there is not a time that I've finished a run that I'm like, I am so glad I did it. I feel so much better.
Thank you for saying that, because I do not like to work out. I don't. However, I'm in yoga, I'm learning because it is so needed for my head. I'm not immune to stress. I'm not immune to life. My stress level is high. So how do I deal with this? So for me, per se, it's yoga. For you, it's an exercise. It's your running. Because after running, you find so much of accomplishment, of positivity. Your endorphin level is high. Your immune system, from running, what you did, you just boost your immune system. Whether you like it or not, you boost your immune system because you upregulated some cellular pathways that are going to boost your immune system. You reduced your free radical damage. You reduced your oxidative stress, which is the culprit of cellular unhealth.
I do think that there are a lot of people out there that probably are thinking, well, I just can't do it. Like, I don't enjoy it. I don't like it. So therefore, I guess I'm just not made to do this. And I think it's encouraging to hear other people that say, look, I don't like it either doing it, but the payback on the other end is incredible.
Absolutely. That's a whole thing. It's like, but the thing is, for example, exercise is versatile. You don't want to run, walk.
Yeah.
You don't want to walk, you love swimming, swim. You don't like swimming, go to the gym, pump some iron. You don't want to pump some iron, go to the yoga studio. You don't want a yoga studio, do Qigong. You don't want Qigong. I mean, the physical exercise routine is endless.
Yeah.
And no excuses. And it's interesting how we start exercising sometimes, or when we commit out of necessity. It's like I watch smokers, and sometimes you bang on their head, sorry for language. It's like, you gotta quit. It's not going to end right. Bang, heart attack. The next day, smoke free. Done. Cold turkey. Something hits you. And then you become, this is like, I can die doing this. But why don't you think prospectively? Why do you why do you act on your health? The best cure of the disease is a prevention of the disease. Why don't you be proactive? Why do I want a failed immune system? Now, the thing is, we're getting older. Whether you like it or not, this is the mechanism. We're getting older. If we're getting older, it's in our cellular apparatus to get more stale and to work slower and stuff. So I need to look at it proactively and prospectively. What do I do? How do I sustain and if every cell starts working slow and the functions are decreased, well, it's not going to skip the immune system if we're talking immune system. So what do I do to boost my immune system? What do I do? How? So I'm thinking, okay, what is my gut doing? How is my GI system functioning? Why? Well, because my GI system is the home of my microgut, my probiotics. And my probiotics are, some say 80+%, some say 70+%, different numbers of my immune system. My immune system basically lives in my gut. So what do I do with my microgut? Now, how do I boost my cells? So I don't live in Hawaii. I don't have the sun the whole year. Do I need vitamin D? Yeah. What about fish oils? Yeah. What about, good food? Because, and there's something that sometimes you don't like doing, but you need to do it because, am I going to be around in 20 years? That's why I'm doing it. Do I have children? Yeah. Do I want to dance on their weddings? Yeah. Do I want to take my grandkids to school? Yeah. Do I want to be in a wheelchair? No. Do I want to suffer from Alzheimer's? No. There you go. So there should be some commitments.
So as we're kind of coming to the end of this, if we're talking about an employee or a leader that says, I'm just really stressed out, I'm having a really difficult time coping, I don't have energy level right now, I'm not feeling great about myself, without overwhelming somebody to say, look, you need to change all of these things. What are some simple things that somebody can realistically start to implement so they start to get those quick wins? Because as you know, right, you start getting those and all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, if I can do that, then I can jump up to this. But people just need a window.
Right. Let's commit to 8 hours of sleep, minus cell phones. No cell phones in the room. Turn off. No, nothing. You turn off the lights, you sleep. Let's try to do this. Number one. And number two, breathing. Breathing. When you are stressed and overwhelmed at work, stop. Just stop. And take a huge, deep inhale and huge, deep exhale. And when you do that, don't think of the bad things that are happening. No. When you breathe, you only concentrate on breath. And you can count it. So you do maybe 4 times. You count to 4 while inhaling, then hold it for 4, then exhale it for 4. And do it 5, 6, 10 times. And then you immediately find yourself that you are less stressed. So these are 2 very simple solutions. Number 3, you take water to work. You have a bottle, preferably not plastic, with a clean water at home. And you drink, you stay hydrated. And sometimes when you want your pizza and stuff, you just take a few sips of water and it will take away your jink. And that's the start, per se. This is very simple. We're not spending no money. We're not going to see a specialist, a therapist. We're very simple. That's solution number one. And hopefully when we reconvene and have another talk and stuff, we'll elaborate on more solutions and maybe get into foods and very simple solutions. What are we going to bring and what are we going to eliminate in foods?
Yeah, and those three that you mentioned, I think, are huge: sleep and our breath, and also
you're stressed, stop, breathe. You're stressed, stop, breathe.
Yeah, it's hard at times, right? In terms of, of your breath.
I know. 100%. I know.
I remember a few times that I was taking yoga, and I would have the instructor would come up and say, "You need to breathe."
Well, that's true. In yoga, that's a thing. That's where you concentrate. There's one thing that is the utmost important to me in yoga. There's nothing more important. It's called prana, breathing, prana. That's a whole thing. You know, people think, I can't afford it, but you don't have to afford it. But you need to commit it. You need to be committed to yourself. You don't need to afford it.
This has been great. Again, I love the conversation that we've had. The focus that you have, I think, is so important. And again, I think it's one that many of us have missed for a long time. It took me a while to catch on to this and how important this stuff really is, and that it is in our control. We have the control over this. So I do look forward to, because I do think the food is a whole additional piece that you could bring so much to this.
It's a big deal, and we need to break it down. Again, money is a big deal. So we need to break it down and help people to realize that it's actually not that bad. There are a few changes we're going to make in cupboards and in the fridge and on the stove. It's going to work.
We'll segue that into episode number 2 that you and I do together. So thank you so much.
Patrick, I'm so grateful. Thank you so much.
I am as well. Wishing you all the best. Peace.
You too. To peace and love. Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Learning from Leaders podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, please feel free to rate, review, and subscribe on your preferred podcast listening platform. We really appreciate that effort. Until next time, keep rising above your best as a leader.